Hey, what's up guys? So welcome to a different video than usual. Recently I've gotten into building my own mechanical keyboards and I have been enjoying it so much I thought why not share it on my channel and see if I can get even more people interested in it and make even more people waste their money. So today I will be building my own 75% keyboard. I'm using the KBD 75V2 DIY kit. As you can probably see on the screen, this video is sponsored by kbdfans.com. I've been planning this video for over a month and I realized almost all the parts I was using was from kbdfans.com. So I reached out to them and asked them if they would want to sponsor this video and they said yes. So if after watching this video you guys are actually interested in it, I totally suggest going and checking out their website. They have a huge selection of stuff. But anyways, I just want to start off and say that this is by no means a tutorial. I am still a noob at this, so I'm sure somewhere throughout this video I'll make mistakes, and if I do and you know it was a mistake, please let me know in the comments. I'm still learning and I like to learn. But what I'll be doing for this video is I'll be linking as many tutorials as possible as I can in the description of people who actually know what they're doing. And if you want to watch somebody who actually does this for a living and really the person who got me into this hobby, then I will link Teha Types. He does full live streams of builds over on Twitch, and he has tutorials and different typing tests on his YouTube channel as well. But anyways, to start off, I thought I would show you guys all the tools I'm going to be using for this build. So from left to right, we have a pair of tweezers, a pair of, I believe these are just kind of like wire cutters. These will be for clipping the stabilizers later on. A small Phillips head screwdriver, a solder sucker, a small paintbrush. I just got this off of Amazon. A tube of Krytox 205. This isn't grade 0. I think this is like GPL or whatever. I could not find grade 0 anywhere. A tube of super lube. This will be for lubing the stabilizers. A switch puller, a keycap puller, solder, and the actual soldering iron. So yes, this PCB that I'm using is not hot swappable, so there is going to be soldering involved later on. Now to show the actual DIY kit that I'm going to be using, like I said before, it's the KBD 75V2. This is a 75% keyboard, so it still has like all the function keys and the arrow keys at the bottom. I like this keyboard layout because I do a lot of editing in Photoshop on my computer because I'm a YouTuber, but I also like it to be as compact as possible because I do gaming at the same time. I want to free up as much space as I can on my desk. So for the DIY kit, it comes with this fully aluminum case with a acrylic diffuser in the middle. This thing is so much heavier than I thought it was going to be, and I love it. I love how heavy and just quality it feels. And I especially love the bottom design of this case, even though you're probably not going to see it all that much. I got mine in full silver. This is because I got a keycap set that I thought would look really good with this. And you'll see later on, I think it ended up looking really good. Next is the PCB that it comes with. This has underglow RGBs already installed for, of course, the acrylic diffuser in the case. Like I said before, this is not a hot swappable PCB, so I will have to solder the switches to the PCB. And lastly, it comes with the aluminum plate. I also forgot to mention this DIY kit does come with stabilizers. It also gives you a choice to upgrade to GMK screw-in stabilizers, which I did. I think it's like $10 or $11 more, and I thought the upgrade was worth it. Moving on, the other parts I'm going to be using for this build, the switches are Telios V2 linears. These are supposedly a very smooth switch, and I've tried tactiles, I've tried clicky switches, and overall I just like linears the most. And these switches are lubed. Yeah, probably the biggest thing that really pushed me to get into this hobby is when I discovered that these guys were lubing their switches, which I just had never even thought was a thing. I'll link Teha Types' video on his tutorial of how he lubes Cherry MX switches, and it's definitely one of those things where once you discover it and try it out, you're probably just not gonna want to go back. I really like the difference in sound it makes after you lube them, and it also makes the switches smoother if you don't over lube them. So yeah, the lube that I'll be using to lube these switches is Krytox 205. I think I said in the beginning when I was showing all the all the tools that I'm going to be using, it's Krytox 205, but it's not grade 0, but it still works really well. I don't know if I mentioned before, but these are PCB mounted switches. I also switched out the springs in these switches for lighter, I think 55 gram springs, just because I really like light linear switches because I do mostly gaming, obviously. And finally, the last thing are the keycaps. I got these Japanese weeb keycaps off of I think KP Republic. I saw these and thought, man, these would go really well with an all silver case, and you'll see in the end I think it ended up looking really good. Anyways, first things first, we need to check to see if the PCB actually works. So to do this, it's pretty simple. Just plug in the PCB. This PCB has a mini USB cable, or port, excuse me. So I just used one of my old keyboard cables to plug it in. Then what you need to do is pull up a keyboard tester. This will show you what keys you're actually pressing and if they work properly. Now, obviously there's not any switches installed on this PCB, so what you'll be doing is using the tweezers that I showed earlier. All you need to do is touch the two pinholes of the switches together with the tweezers, and that'll activate it obviously in the keyboard tester and show you if it's working. Just do this for all the switches on the PCB and test to see if all of them are working as they should. Thankfully, the PCB was completely fine and I had no issues with it. And as you can see, the RGB underglow is also working completely fine. So next step, we will be clipping and lubing the stabilizers. So if you didn't know, under your bigger keys like your space bar and your shift and your backspace, you have things called stabilizers, and these do exactly what the name says. These just stabilize the bigger keys. But this is definitely one of the things that made the biggest difference in terms of feel and sound, is clipping and lubing these stabilizers. Once again, I'll link a tutorial on how to clip and lube stabilizers in the description from Teo Types. In that tutorial, he also band-aid mods his stabilizers. I will not be doing that for my build. But this is pretty simple. You just need to take apart the stabilizers. I will be using, of course, the super lube to lube these. But first, what you need to do is you need to clip the stems. So on the bottom, there's these 4 little legs, and 2 of these legs have these kind of little prongs that stick up. You're gonna want to clip these off, and what this does is basically makes the stabilizer less mushy when you press it down. I don't really know how to explain it well, but it just feels more snappy, I guess. Once you're done doing that, you can now lube the stabilizers. Like I said, I'm using the super lube, so I just take my small little paintbrush, get some of the super lube on it, and then I lube the inside of the housing. And then for the stabilizer bar, or whatever it's called, I'm not sure exactly what this is called, I just dip it into the actual tube of the super lube and then put it all back together. And then you just repeat all these steps for the rest of the stabilizers. And then once you're done doing that, you can install the stabilizers and test them. You really want to do this first before you install the rest of the stuff on your keyboard. I have learned this from past mistakes, because on both of my past keyboards, I didn't really bother testing the stabilizers before I installed everything else, and a couple of them ended up coming out really bad. So you can see here what I did is I installed the stabilizers. I have, of course, screw-in stabilizers, and they screw into the PCB itself. Then I put the aluminum plate over it, installed some of the PCB mounted switches so that it kept everything together, put all the switches where my stabilizers are, and then actually put the keycaps on top of the stabilizers and the switch. And I tested it that way. I think this is also how Teo Types does it. And at the time, I thought for sure all the stabilizers sounded and felt perfect, and most of them did, but you'll see, I'll mention it later on, I did mess up on my spacebar a little bit. I don't know exactly what I did wrong, but it just did not sound or feel very good. But thankfully, before I soldered everything in, I managed to catch it, and then I went back and did some adjusting and managed to make it reasonable. Still not perfect, but still okay. So while editing this video, I realized I didn't mention that this keyboard, this PCB specifically, supports different layouts for the 75% keyboard. So you actually need to know where the switches are going to go. There's multiple holes right next to each other. And to do this, it's pretty simple. You can just put whatever keycaps you're going to use on top of a switch, and that way you can easily see where they're supposed to be with the layout that you're going to be using. But now that I've tested all the stabilizers and that I'm happy with it, I can start putting in the rest of the switches. And this is pretty basic. You just have to line up the switch pins with the switch holes on the PCB. but you do have to be careful not to bend any of the pins, which I ended up doing. I bent quite a bit, actually. I bent like 8 or something, and I had to keep on taking them out and then bending the pin back into place with the pair of tweezers. But that's fine, as long as you're not like crazy aggressive with it. You're not going to break off the pins. You can just bend them back. And then finally, we had all of the switches installed, so now it is time to start soldering. So like I probably said in the beginning, I am not great at soldering. I'll try to link some tutorials in the description, and the main thing is that you want this kind of cone shape when you do this through hole soldering, and you'll see very many times I did not get that shape right. It all works fine in the end, but you really want to have that that cone shape and not like the blob circles ball things that I had going on. I also am not used to filming like this, so I kept on sticking my stupid head in front of the camera when I was trying to do this, trying to record the soldering. So sorry about that. But after a while and taking my time, I got through it all. And now, once again, you're gonna want to test to make sure that all the switches actually work. So same thing as before when we were testing the PCB with the tweezers. You just plug it in, open up the keyboard tester, but now you actually have all the switches installed, so you can just press all of them and test them. And thankfully, they all worked fine. I didn't miss any switches. So now at this point, we can finally install the PCB and the plate with all the switches on it into the case. So first I had to actually take apart the case. There were some screws. There's 2 screws still left in the bottom of the case, and I just unscrewed those and then took it apart. Here you can see the acrylic diffuser in the middle had some protective film on it, and I just quickly ripped that off. Then I put it back onto the case and installed the PCB and plate on top of that. Pretty simple. There were some screws that you just screw on top of the PCB and plate into the actual bottom of the case. Then once that's done and they're in all tight, you put on the top piece of the case, and this top piece actually screws in from the bottom, so I had to flip it over and do that. And there you go, it is all put together. It already looks so nice. I really like the color of the Telio switches with this like all silver build. Obviously you're not really going to see these at all when I put the keycaps on, but it still just looks really clean. Speaking of keycaps, as you can see here, I did have the keycaps that I'm using for this build. I got them like a couple days ago, and I put them originally on my other 75% keyboards just to test how they feel and look. You can also see, I just realized when I was switching the keycaps over to the new build, this spacebar has like this weird black smudge on it, and I tried so many things to try to rub this off and it just didn't come off, which is pretty unfortunate. But anyways, moving on, this is pretty boring. It's just me switching over all the keycaps to the new build. And after a while, I realized that on my old 75% keyboard, I changed the layout on the right side. So obviously this new keyboard is not going to have the same layout, and I didn't know what these right switches actually were. So I had to plug the keyboard back in, open up the keyboard tester and see what they were, and put on the correct keycaps where they're supposed to be. But finally, there you go. There is the final build almost. The cable that I'm using is just a silver cable I got off of Amazon, but I did order a custom white aviator USB cable over a month ago, and somehow it's not here yet, which really sucks, but I still think overall it looks really clean. I was super happy with how the build came out. As you can see, it's just running the default LEDs when you first plug it in, which is the red, but even with just the red, it looks really good. But anyways, finally I thought I would do a type test so you guys could hear what the switches and some of the stabilizers sound like. I have thousands and thousands of hours of PC gaming time, but for some reason I just never bothered to learn how to type correctly. So like I am really not good at typing. I think at most I can do like 70 words per minute, and my right hand I still peck like crazy with my index finger. So please don't bully me too much, but it's still, you guys get the idea, and you can hear the switches and everything. The spacebar, like I said, sounds okay, but not perfect. But yeah, guys, that is it for this video. Hopefully it wasn't too long. I've redone this commentary like 5 times now, because the first time I did this commentary, it was like 45 minutes long. So I just didn't think, I thought that was way too much. So I've redone it and tried to keep it as basic as possible. But yeah, if you guys are interested in this hobby, like I said, I'll link KBD Fan's website down below. I'll also link Teod Types channel, as well as some other channels on tutorials and stuff. It really is a super fun, a really fun hobby, and the community is really cool for it. The only downside is, of course, it can be pretty expensive. But yeah, anyways guys, thank you for watching the video. I hope you have an amazing rest of the day, and I'll see you in the next one. See you later.